Welcome to Storytellers Anthropology. Hello everyone, hope you all are doing well. Today we are about to discuss LGBTQ. It is a topic of queer anthropology or social anthropology. Introduction. LGBTQ is an acronym that stands for lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender and queer for questioning. It's a term used to describe individuals who are not heterosexual or cisgender. The acronym has evolved with some adding I for intersex and A for asexual, aromantic or agender, leading to variations like LGBTQIA+. Here's a brief overview of the letters in LGBTQ. L for lesbian women who are attracted to other women. G for gay, people attracted to the same sex, often used more commonly for men. B bisexual, people attracted to both men and women or to more than one gender. T transgender, people whose gender identity differs from the sex they were assigned at birth. Q queer, questioning a broad level for sexual and gender minorities or those exploring their identity. The plus in LGBTQ plus represents other identities not specifically included in the acronym, reflecting the diversity and inclusiveness. Community. LGBTQ people may participate in the LGBTQ community, which may be defined by shared LGBTQ culture, by shared geography such as gay villages, includes elements such as LGBTQ social movements including LGBTQ rights organization, LGBTQ student groups in schools and universities and LGBTQ affirming religious groups. LGBTQ activists and sociologists see LGBTQ community building as a counterweight to heterosexism, homophobia, biphobia, transphobia, sexualism, and other conformist pressures that exist in the larger society. Not all LGBTQ people consider themselves part of the LGBTQ community. LGBTQ culture. LGBTQ culture varies widely by geography and the identity of the participants. Elements common to cultures of gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgenders, and intersex people include Pride movement, including Pride parades, events such as the Gay Games and Southern Decadence. LGBTQ media works by LGBTQ artists, including the queer movement. LGBTQ-owned businesses, particularly those that cater specifically to the LGBTQ community. Not all LGBTQ people identify with LGBTQ culture. This may be due to geographic distance, unawareness of the subculture's existence, fear of social stigma, or a preference for remaining unidentified with sexuality or gender-based subcultures or communities. The Quakers and gay same movements critique what they see as the commercialization and self-imposed ghettoization of LGBTQ culture. History. In 1994, the annual observance of LGBTQ History Month began in the United States and it has since been picked up in other countries. This observance involves highlighting the history of the people, LGBTQ rights and related civil rights movements. It is observed during October in the United States to include National Coming Out Day on October 11. In the United Kingdom, it has been observed during February since 2005, Section 28, which had prohibited local authorities from promoting homosexuality, was repealed in England and Wales in 2003. While the same legislation named Section 2 in the Scottish legislation was repealed by the Scottish Parliament in 2000. A celebrated achievement in LGBTQ history occurred when Queen Beatrix signed a law signed a law making Netherlands the first country to legalize same-sex marriage in 2001, and another when Ireland became the first country to legalize same-sex marriage by popular vote in 2015. This is the statue of Alexander Wood, Toronto, Canada. A six-band rainbow flag representing the LGBTQ community. Cologne, Germany, Gay Pride Fair 2014 images. Greenwich Village, a gay neighborhood in Manhattan, is home to the Stonewall Inn, shown here adorned with rainbow pride flags. Rights: LGBTQ rights by country or territory. The legal rights held by LGBTQ people vary greatly by country or jurisdiction, ranging from the legal recognition of same-sex marriage to the death penalty by homosexuality. Laws that affect LGBTQ peoples include legal recognition of same-sex marriage, laws concerning same-sex parenting, including same-sex adoption, anti-discrimination laws in employment, housing, education, public accommodations, hate crime laws imposing enhanced criminal penalties for prejudice-motivated violence against LGBTQ people, bathroom bills affecting access to sex-segregated facilities by transgender people, sodomy laws that penalize consensual same-sex sexual activity, laws concerning access to gender-affirming surgery and gender-affirming hormone replacement therapy, legal recognition and accommodation of the affirmed gender. Even in jurisdictions with strong protections for LGBTQ rights, they may still be subject to discrimination against LGBTQ people. LGBTQ and anthropology. In anthropology, LGBTQ topics are explored primarily through the subfield known as queer anthropology. This discipline studies variations in sexuality and gender expression across different societies and how these societies treat individuals with such variations. Queer anthropology approaches these topics critically, emphasizing the social cultural forces shaping experience of gender and sexuality, rather than treating them as isolated categories. Key points about LGBTQ in anthropology include: anthropology has historically documented accepted homosexual behavior and transgender identities in many societies worldwide, revealing that sexual and gender norms vary greatly and are deeply embedded in cultural values. Queer anthropology critiques Western norms and categories of sexuality, showing that applying this universally often limits understanding of local identities and practices. The field grew significantly in the 1960s and 1970s, expanding into lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer anthropology. It focuses on social inequalities and the power dynamics around sexuality and gender. Anthropological research highlights that gender and sexual identities are intertwined with systems of meaning, social relations, etc. LGBTQ in anthropology. Ongoing examples from societies such as the Navajo or Burmese show positive cultural roles for gender and sexual variants, challenging Victorian and Western normative forms. The discipline recognizes the importance of subjective experiences of gender identity, moving beyond fixed categories like transsexual or cross-dresser to the more inclusive transgender. Anthropologists also study how globalization affects LGBTQ identities locally, including interactions between Western LGBTQ concepts and non-Western cultural contexts. The Association for Queer Anthropology within the American Anthropological Association promotes research and education on LGBTQ issues, intersectionality, and diversity. Research in queer anthropology addresses broader issues such as colonialism, capitalism, race, class, and the social functions of non-heteronormative sexualities. What role does globalization play in shaping LGBTQ plus identities across cultures? Internationalizations of LGBTQ plus culture. Globalization allows LGBTQ plus individuals globally to connect, share experience, and access cultural products like films, music, literature, strengthening a shared sense of identity and community across borders. Spread of language and concepts. English LGBTQ plus terminology and concepts spread worldwide, influencing how individuals in various cultural contexts discover, articulate, and assert their identities, as seen in places like Vietnam, where English terms and self-expression. Economic and social visibility. Global economic integration enables LGBTQ plus people to attain greater financial independence, visibility, and inclusion, with many international corporations adopting diversity policies and support LGBTQ plus employees. The same topic ongoing. Classes and local tradition. Global LGBTQ plus rights. Identities sometimes clash with local tradition or conservative values, leading to resistance, backlash, and varying levels of acceptance or persecution, depending on the country or culture. Western influence and hybridity. Western models of LGBTQ plus identities, activism, and culture often influence non-Western contexts, sometimes causing tension around cultural imperialism and homogenization. Yet local cultures adopt and reinterpret global influences in diverse ways. Intersectionality and cultural specificity. The impact of globalization on LGBTQ plus identities shaped by intersecting factors like race, class, culture, and local societal norms. For example, white Western societies may have more institutional support. Marginalized groups with LGBTQ plus populations still face unique challenges. Resilience and empowerment. Through globalization, LGBTQ plus individuals, fashion, cultures is different. Next one is queer anthropology and LGBTQ. Queer anthropology is a subfield of anthropology that critically examines LGBTQ identities, sexualities, and gender expressions through a cultural, social lens. It challenges additional anthropological approaches that often view gender and sexuality as fixed, binary, and biologically determined categories. Key points about queer anthropology and LGBTQ include destruction of normative categories, deconstruction of normative categories. Queer anthropology questions and deconstructs the conventional binary categories of gender, male or female, and sexuality into heterosexual, homosexual, emphasizing the fluidity and diversity of sexual gender identities globally. Cultural relativity. It highlights that LGBTQ identities and expressions vary widely across cultures and often do not fit into Western categories. For example, some cultures recognize non-binary or third gender nodes that Western frameworks may overlook. Critique of Western hegemony. Queer anthropology critiques the imposition of Western sexual and gender norms. Key points about queer anthropology ongoing. Intersection with power and inequality. It examines how social, sexual, and gender norms are instruments of social control and how LGBTQ people experience systemic discrimination and marginalization shaped by race, class, colonial histories, and globalization. Focus on lived experience. The discipline values the voices and experiences of LGBTQ individuals, understanding identity as dynamic, socially constructed, and context dependent. Globalization impact. Queer anthropology looks at how globalization spreads LGBTQ ideas, language, activism, etc. Books and key authors foundational to LGBTQ and queer anthropology include Gender Travel by Judith Butler. Introduces the theory of gender performativity challenging fixed identities. Margaret Mead's works such as Sex and Temperament in Three Primitive Societies 1935 offer early anthropological exploration of gender and sexuality beyond Western norms. Thinking Sex 1984 by Gail Rubin examines the social hierarchies and politics of sexuality. Coming Out Under Fire 1995 Alan Berube investigates LGBTQ history and services. In what ways Western LGBTQ plus concepts impacted non-Western cultures historically? Introduction and spreads of Western terminology and identities. Western LGBTQ plus terms and identity categories such as gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender, queer have been introduced globally through colonialism, missionary work, modernization, and more recently globalization. These categories often replaced or overshadowed individuals' indigenous gender and sexual identity frameworks. Colonial legal systems and criminalization. Many non-Western societies inherited legal codes for Western colonizers that criminalize same-sex relations and non-conforming gender expressions. Laws such as anti-sodomy statutes were imposed, criminalizing practices that might have previously been accepted or tolerated locally. This imposition disrupted indigenous sexual and gender norms. Ongoing global LGBTQ activism and transnational national networks, Western LGBTQ plus activism and human rights frameworks have influenced NGOs, advocacy strategies, and legal reforms in many non-Western countries. International human rights principles, global media, and funding shape local LGBTQ plus movements, agendas, and tactics. Hybrid and local adaptations. Non-Western cultures often creatively adapt and hybridize Western LGBTQ plus concepts with local understanding of gender and sexuality. This results in culturally specific identities that may not map directly onto Western levels but integrate global vocabulary and rights discourse. Tensions between tradition and modernity. Western LGBTQ plus ideas are over traditional ideas. Conclusion: LGBTQ identities and communities represent a rich and complex area of human diversity that challenges traditional norms about gender and sexuality. From an anthropological perspective, understanding LGBTQ experiences requires moving beyond fixed binaries and Western-centric categories to appreciate the cultural, historical, and social contexts shaping diverse sexual and gender expressions worldwide. Queer anthropology has been instrumental in this shift by critiquing essentialist views and highlighting the fluidity and cultural construction of sexuality and gender. The book is Margaret Mead's work such as Sex and Temperament in Three Primitive Societies 1935 offer early anthropological exploration of gender and sexuality beyond Western norms. Anthropologists such as Tom Boylstorff co-authored Gay Science, the Ethics and Politics of Queer Studies, and Paulina Pelham contribute to ongoing discussions about global LGBTQ identities, activism, and cultural diversity. Queer anthropology has been instrumental in this shift by different aspects. This is a picture of LGBTQ people. All people should be treated equally, regardless of who they are or who they love. To be continued, the next topic will be sex tourism. See you in the next video. Till then, goodbye and thank you from Storytellers Anthropology. See you in the next video.